And welcome to the SpartanMag.com VCast. Jim Comparoni, Paul Konyndyk outside the Spectrum Center, Charlotte, North Carolina. Michigan State getting ready to play Mississippi State. First round of the NCAA tournament, 12:15 p.m. Tip-off, West Region. Michigan State made it. They were here. They practiced today. Izzo and the players, media, press conference. Not much to learn today. Most of what was talked about was discussed in East Lansing earlier in the week. The players have a little bit more of a construct on what they're up against, of course, because they've watched more film by now. But there's no shortage of confidence with Michigan State. It's a veteran team. They went to the Sweet 16 last year, was in overtime trying to get into the Elite Eight. They came into the year with aspirations to win the national championship. Nobody thinks that's a possibility, but they think they're good enough to win this game and win a couple more and make some noise. You can kind of sense that from the players right now. Would you agree, Paul?
Yeah, I agree, but I'm not sure if that's the case. I think that's one of the things about this team that I'm not sure is always the best thing is when they come in and they're confident and they're feeling really good about themselves. If that's being backed up in the practice gym, if they feel like they can get that level of physicality. I'm reminded, I think the last time they played in a 12-15 game or 12 game this early in the NCAA tournament, I think they lost to Middle Tennessee State, if I'm not mistaken.
A 15-2 game?
Just saying at timing, this early.
In the afternoon? That was the first game on a Thursday in St. Louis, right?
The first game on a Thursday as well. But, yeah, you expect Michigan State to be confident. They've been there before. These guys have played just about everybody you could play in the last couple of years. But it still comes down to some of the basics, and against a pretty good defense, against a defense that's tricky or unique. Quirky is another way to put it. I'm not sure if I've got confidence that Tyson Walker's going to be ready to pull the trigger with window dressing coming at him, because that's always been an issue with him. I think it's a credit to him that he's unselfish, but there's times where I think he has more space to shoot, and he doesn't shoot because he's worried about getting a better shot for other people. And at this time of year, you've got to be able to shoot. And then the other thing is, there's no guarantee that Jaden Akins is going to make shots in the corner or Malik Hall is going to make shots in the corner. So, if this is a grinder, I think that Michigan State could win it out. If Michigan State gets out and runs in transition and is able to defensive rebound, I think they can grind it out. But it's not like Michigan State, besides the transition game, has something that they can really overpower Mississippi State with. It might just be a game of attrition.
Yeah, and the transition points last week against Purdue, 18-0 in fast break points. It's not like you're going to score all 80 points in transition. But the fact that you can get 18 against Purdue, like we talked about in the VCast on Monday, shows that the fast break is coming around, and they're going to need some of those points in this game because you want to score before they get that defense set for a number of reasons. So the transition game starts with defense, starts with the defensive board, and then getting out. Then we'll look to Mississippi State's transition defense to see how good that is. They'll see a potent Michigan State fast break that will get good shots. Whether those shots go in or not, we'll have to wait and see. When I was talking about Michigan State's confidence, the thing that's strange is it's a confident team for a number 9 seed. Usually number 9 seeds are not confident. Now, they've not played well enough this year to have a lot of confidence, but what they've done in the past, that's what gives them the confidence. But also, they've had pressure on them since the first week of December. They lost those games early. Then they played, Baylor and, the Indiana State game. Michigan State had to win those games. Those were important games. Then they feel good about themselves, lose 2 games early in the Big Ten. Then they're right back against the wall again. They've had pressure all year, which Izzo said a few weeks ago is good for his team because they've had pressure. Now at this point, have they had so much pressure that they are mentally fatigued? Probably not, because they got out of the Big Ten tournament so early. So it's a combination of confidence, but because the season went the way it went, is Michigan State ticked off and eager to prove something, and not with the type of pressure that Purdue has right now going into the tournament, not with the type of pressure that North Carolina has right now going to the tournament. Michigan State has confidence, experience, I would say not much pressure, and rested and ticked off and motivated, and a lot of those psychological things, I think you don't know until the game is played, but I think some of those could come up good for Michigan State.
Well, I think it could be very well that'd be the case for some guys, but with the Jaden Akins, and I don't want to belabor the point with him, but this is a guy who's been a career 40% three-point shooter. We've seen practices this year where he hasn't missed a shot, and it's a source of frustration for him that he's not making easy shots that he's made over the years. So you talk about being loose, you can say that,
yeah.
But then if he misses a shot or he's wide open,
yeah.
How is that going to affect him, psychologically? Now,
yes.
We saw him do some really, really good things throughout the course of the season in some games where he didn't shoot a very good percentage. You see him crash the boards out like Charlie Bell and get some tip-ins. He can make an impact on as a defensive player. So I'm kind of looking to see how he brings himself to bear on that. But I think one of the things that the players said today is they can't let their offense dictate their defense. And this is a team they expect Mississippi State to play great defense or to play good defense, and they know Tyson Walker mentioned today that Michigan State needs to play consistently good defense, regardless of whether they're scoring the ball or not. Otherwise, that's when you get those 8-point bursts where a game is like 15-15, and all of a sudden you miss a shot, or you miss a closeout or something like that, and you get on the wrong side of it. So I can see this going in a number of ways. I kind of feel like Michigan State might win, but it comes down to are they doing what they're supposed? What we've seen them do in recent games, defend and rebound, and are you making easy shots, not difficult shots? And some guys will have to make difficult shots, but the frustrating thing for Michigan State is they're making easy shots. It's not like when Izzo says our guys are getting shots, they're missing them. It's not like contested shots. The offense is working.
Yeah, and that's all that a coach and a scheme can do is create better shots than the opponent. There's been a lot of games where Michigan State has lost games where they had better shots. So in this one, the strange thing about Mississippi State is, very good three-point defense, number 6 in the country in field goal percentage defense from three-point range. And they will put pressure on the ball. I'll be interested to see if they do that with Hoggard, even though Hoggard is not a threat to shoot. Do they get out on him? I mean, beyond the top of the key? That's the way they do it. Or do they play off of him a little bit to begin with? Firstly, they'll probably get on him and they try to steer you and not give up any middle, no middle philosophy on defense. They're out on people. Good three-point defense. They're out on people, as you would expect. And with the way they go no middle, a lot of times you end up screening it and they help. They expect, they want help, and then they're swatting and clawing at the ball, get a lot of steals. So you think you can draw that helper and get it to somebody and someone's open. This is the thing that's interesting about them. Someone is open for a three, and then by the time they shoot, the closeouts are so aggressive. They close out so aggressively, and what you think is an open shot, by the time you shoot it, it's not such a great shot. They do a real good job closing out and kind of gambling. They funnel, then react, funnel, then recover. And they've not played. Michigan State's not played a lot of teams like that, so it's hard to simulate in practice. You can have a plan, but until you're on the court with it, it's kind of hard to get it all straightened out. From there, South Carolina, and what I'm sure Michigan State will probably do also, old school Bobby Knight, ball fake, shot fake. They'll jump out of the gym, then draw another defender, then another shot fake, then pass that. Now the next guy's usually not open. They do a real good job of getting out on you and jumping out of the gym, and then they get out of the next guy real well also. Sometimes it's the third extra pass. Jaden Akins in the corner, Malik Hall in the corner to create open shots, which are rare against these guys. But there's things that they do that seem like shouldn't work as well as they do, but statistically they do work well for Mississippi State's defense.
When you're talking about that third open pass, that means when you get that trigger that thing, you can't be doing that with 6 seconds or something like that, because you've got, sequentially it takes a long time, and that's one of the things that Michigan State's, I think they'll probably struggle with a little bit, getting into the flow against that defense. So it's not a deal where it's the third pass to Jaden Akins, and then he gets it with a second left on the shot clock, and he's rushing the shot or something like that. So that's kind of a little concern. I wonder too if I think of a guy like Matt McQuaid, how good he was at shot faking, getting a guy to the gym, and then getting a quick release on a step in, but that's something that Josh Langford did that as well a little bit, but that's something that not every guy has. That's something that maybe used to be pretty common in basketball.
But shot fake and then the pass.
Right, and that's what you have to do. That's the difference between the way they close out and their quirkiness, where they've got other guys gumming it up, and some of the other overly aggressive defenses where all you need to do is shot fake, get a guy in the air, step in, and shoot it.
Meanwhile, some people think the step-in shot is a bad two. Wrong. Sometimes that's the open shot.
We talk about this every year. The best shots are the ones that the defense gives you
that are open.
Yeah, against drop coverage. You've got a 15-footer. That's a whole lot better, in my opinion, than going in and getting your shot blocked.
Shot blocked, or kick it back out for a contested three. As some people are in love with their, a bad two is a bad thing. Sometimes a quote unquote bad two is the first open shot, especially with the shot clock going down.
You can say that. You can say, well, this bears it out or that bears it out, but
Sure, you would prefer a layup or an open three, but
Right.
it's hard to get those sometimes.
But I mean, bottom line is, I don't care what sport you play, every single offensive scheme is try to tailor to take advantage of what a defense gives you, because every defense has a weakness. So these generalities of this is the kind of shot that you need, it doesn't match up because it doesn't match up to the specific of a scheme. And I think, it's just like in football, a running play might not work, but if you have more blockers than you have tacklers, then a running play is the right play.
Numbers.
And it's like.
And the numbers, it'll creep into this too. Another part of their no middle is they'll overplay you and invite you. Like if the basket is at tree, they'll invite you to go baseline. In basketball for 1,000 years, you're not supposed to give up baseline. But they do the Chris Beard like Texas Tech. They want you to go baseline. They've got a help defender coming over there to put you in jail. A lot of times it's a big guy, sometimes it's a guard. They want you to drive down there, then you get in trouble. So South Carolina and Michigan State will do a little bit of that and then have a safety valve off of it to get them to do what they do and try to exploit it in some way. Can Michigan State work their plan and not have the ball? Because Mississippi State knows that you're going to try to do that anyway and not take it all the way to the rim. And they're just really good at getting steals and getting in and going. Protecting that ball while you try to work your offense sounds easy, but this team creates a lot of turnovers. Michigan State's been good at avoiding turnovers. Michigan State avoids the wild pitch turnovers. Now can they avoid the strip steal turnovers based off coming out of a quirky defense that'll put you in tricky number situations? And if you can beat the initial jail, you can get a numbers advantage on the other side. Although on the other side, they'll have two guys defending three, and they're very good at that too. They know where you're trying to go with your safety valves. It's an interesting chess match. Nebraska does a little bit of known middle, like Izzo says the other day, but hard to simulate, and we'll see what Michigan State's got.
Yeah, I think some of the success Michigan State has had in terms of like preventing, like limiting turnovers and whatnot. It's like you see it so much, and you see the same defenses so much. You develop a feel for what's coming and when it's coming, but this comes from different angles. So that instinctualness, it's like there's certain things where unless you see it, it's the second time is easier to play against them. But I really don't think as many teams as Michigan State has played, as many styles as they played, this is different.
Yeah, and now as far as we haven't talked about the full bracket that Michigan State got. Now they've got to win this game first of all, and it's almost a coin toss type of game. Everybody sees North Carolina, the number 1 seed, on the other side of this bracket here in Charlotte. A lot of Tar Heel fans. It's going to be loud, no question about that. Hello.
Hi, do you guys want us to talk at all? Do
Yeah.
want to interview someone?
Yeah, what do you think? Who's going to win the game tomorrow?
Which game?
Mississippi State, Michigan State.
Michigan State.
You think so?
Yeah. Just because I think they're a better team.
Want to look into the camera and let people know?
I think they're going to be a better team.
Really?
Yeah. I also it's really a lot of excitement about this whole tournament. It's amazing. It's the best thing that America does. Better than the Super Bowl. Better than anything else. It's like kids who.
Talk to them.
Just kids who never would have a chance to play on a national level. Gives it an opportunity to do it. Should be excited about every team that is here and every team that is playing, whether they win or lose.
You want to give us your first name and where you're from?
My name is Ann. My first name, and I'm from Maryland.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
So anyway,
You're down here for the tournament?
no, I'm here for training, but I can't tell you what the training is.
Okay.
But
You a Terrapin fan?
no, not really. I'm more of a Cavaliers fan, UVA.
That's fine. That's fair.
Well, but although
Last night was tough.
yeah, it was really tough. So both the NC State game and then the game last night, it's tears. For me, I'm not that interested in the March Madness anymore. I'm going to get off camera, so I think your friend's getting a little bored with what I'm saying. So
I'm just generally bored. It's ADD. So
okay. Where are you guys reporting from?
East Lansing, Michigan State reporters.
Fantastic. But anyway, I think Michigan State will do well.
All
I mean,
right.
it's amazing. I also think of always think of Michigan State, always think about Chris Webber.
Yeah. That's Michigan actually.
No.
He went to Michigan, but he was going to go to Michigan State, but some things happened.
Okay. Well, anyway.
He's still friends with Izzo, though. Weber's friends with Izzo.
I thought he was the one, though, that he did a horrible,
He called timeout when they didn't have one against North Carolina in the
Is
title
that
game.
Michigan, though, or was it Michigan State?
Against Duke. North Carolina is for Michigan.
Okay.
For sure.
Anyway, but I'm a big ACC fan, so that's what I'm always thinking. A lot of energy in North Carolina because of the game. It's a phenomenal month.
It's cool. We've been.
this is the
our
best
26th
2 days in basketball.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly, it
Right.
is. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Anyway, thank you for interviewing me. Glad to meet you guys. All right.
Have a
Check
good
it.
night.
I hope this doesn't get on air.
I will.
I hope training goes well.
It's on YouTube. Have a good time. There you go. Well, that's a first, Paul.
We've had so many photo bombs, but usually
Now, Paul was looking over here because we have passersby outside the stadium, and I saw some worry in your eye that someone was going to approach.
It wasn't her.
I didn't expect her.
It wasn't them. It was someone else.
For a minute there, I thought we were in trouble. Like we were outside. Because one time we were doing this outside of Madison Square Garden in Times Square, and some people came out and shut it down. They're like, "You cannot do video in Times Square, Madison Square Garden, outside, out in public in the United States of America."
Truthfully,
but not there.
Truthfully, all the guy was looking for is a couple 20s.
Which guy?
The guy that said we couldn't do it. He was looking for.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. He's looking for
Never thought of
some
that.
palm grease.
Bribery is usually not the first thing that comes to mind.
Not New York City.
No.
All right.
That's a little New York City also. We can talk about some other.
Whatever we were talking
Anyway,
about.
I don't remember. We can wrap it up. But, the bracket. So Michigan State, you get North Carolina. They're tough. There'll be a lot of Tar Heel fans here. But if you're going to have a number one, if you're going to be a 9 seed and you have to play number one, you'd rather be North Carolina than UConn, I think. I'm pretty sure. I'd rather be North Carolina than Houston, I'm pretty sure. Even though Houston had a flat tire last weekend, they should be spruced back up this week, I think. North Carolina's good, but they've not been like top seed, like bonkers all year. They're going to be here. They'll have some pressure on them. They were not in the tournament last year. They were in the national championship game 2 years ago. Seniors, R.J. Davis, Baycott, a lot of talent. But, people in the media have asked them about Caleb Love being in this region, the possibility of facing their former teammate for Arizona in the Elite Eight, the number 2 seed. And North Carolina is excited about that. Can you catch him in the second round on a one-day prep? Izzo against Hubert Davis.
This honestly reminds me a little bit, and maybe Michigan State loses tomorrow, but if they get by Mississippi State, I think they've got a real chance to make a run. This reminds me of when Michigan State played in Indianapolis, and you had, and that was, I think that was a Sweet 16, but the Louisville fans that were just like, I had to share a cab ride over with them to the.
There's regional finals. There's Elite Eight.
Yeah, but I had to share a cab ride with them over to the arena, and they're like, too bad you guys can't shoot. We've got 5 first-round draft picks. Well, and they're celebrating, and I remember that game, and I'm like, Travis Walton had the evil glee in his eye, and that was one of the classic post games. They asked him what it was like to match up with it. I forget who it was, but he was drafted in the first round. Travis Walton's said something effective. He wasn't even the 4th best player I faced in the Big Ten, or something to that effect. But we've seen Michigan State kind of cycle up in these type of instances. I will say this: usually when Michigan State has had a highly seeded team, like a 7 or something, make a run, they've usually had, I would say, better leadership. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. Like, I'm talking about better vocal leadership that someone can rally around. Malik Hall is a good person. I think he's more of a leader by example type. He's not fiery. I think guys will play for him and they want to play for him, but he's not the Pied Piper type, like a Travis Walton or or some of the other guys that have really inspired people to play at a different level.
Do you notice the intensity ratcheting up, though, a little bit with these guys? I do. When they were at their backs to the wall, when the transition game was going a little bit faster in the last couple of weeks, they are that positive level of senioritis that you get sometimes. And also, Hogard was talking about Michigan State's inconsistency this year. And one of the things he mentioned, he said something about, the defensive focus kind of lagged here. And he's talking about himself. Right. And that is true. So if you're self-aware enough to know that, and everybody knows that A.J. Hogard in a given day can play some really good defense.
Especially against bigger guards.
And he's locked in and everything else, then that's what you get in the tournament. Everybody's locked in, everybody's going for it because it's a great, that's what it's all about. This is what they play for. So that level of Michigan State, if it resembles what it looked like in Baylor that one day in Detroit, they can beat anybody. And if that happens in 3 days, we'll see. You have to get past Mississippi State first, though.
Having covered that in person, that was the most connected and locked in I've seen Michigan State play on defense. And I can't remember the exact sequence of how many days they had to prepare for that, but they were in Baylor like big time. They moved in unison, and there was high level communication. So for Michigan State to move on from this, I think Malik Hall has to have a really big game
and stay out of foul trouble, like we said on Monday.
Right, but again, I'll go back to what I said last VCast that we did. I feel like that every single game. Malik Hall, because of the way this team is built, he has to be that kind of X factor guy. He can score in some different ways, but also as a rebounder, sometimes as a passer. In this game, I think as a passer, and he's got he's had a couple games this year where there's been zero hesitation on the shot, where I know that on the perimeter jumper, where I know that one of the focal points have been like, against this team, you are going to be open. You need to be prepared to shoot it and make that shot. Now, we'll see if he can do it in this one. I guess the other thing in a close game, the one thing that makes me feel a little bit better, and maybe Mississippi State comes out and they shoot 80% from the free throw line, but when you have a bunch of guys that are in the playing rotation that are shooting between 55 and 65%,
free throw line
in a physical game, especially if Michigan State's got the transition thing going, the mental, it's like in baseball when it's like stressed innings that you're pitching and stuff like that. Those free throws in those situations, a guy that could make make a ton of them in a row, 20 out of 25 or whatever in a practice gym, all of a sudden you start missing those in pressure situations. And I wonder if that's going to happen with them. Now, the big guy, 6'7", 230, he's had a couple games.
Matthews?
He had one game this year where he had 12 free throws. So I think he's capable of it. But
it'd be Izzo's luck, if you quote Izzo, that he would shoot well in this particular game. But that's a 65% free throw shooter.
Right, but there's also, you look at guys on the Michigan State roster, if let's say Jackson Kohler, if he went off for 10 points or whatever, I think we've seen enough of him last year when he was healthy that, against the Rutgers or whatever, where it's possible. Doesn't mean it's probable, but in these type of games, there's always a guy that goes off.
You got to be playing well because to move on, that team has already played well. You got to have those 5 out of 7 3-point performances from people, the McQuaids and people like that. That's part of the madness, and it needs to dial in right now. Now, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you about, we talk about A.J. Hogard, and he's a guy that's able to make plays when there's not, because he's strong, because he can penetrate.
Yeah.
Is there going to be any of that kind of stuff available to him, and does he have to watch for getting charges?
Sure.
In this game, because he's going to the way they run their defense, it's clogged up a little bit, and I think they have the potential to frustrate you. And he's a good penetrator, but can he get those shots? And
and he'll be guarded by probably 6'2" Davis. He'll have some strength advantage on him a little bit, driving in, collecting those help defenders. Will be swatting at him and everything, but it'll be hard to drive from the left wing because they ice it and overplay it and don't let you go middle. So you flip it and go to the baseline, what they want to do, and then you do that. It's almost like option football. It's like you're going to do this, and then they know you're going to pitch it, but can you execute it anyway? So Hogard's going to get in there in loose ball situations, have some layup opportunities, maybe a 15-footer, things that he's not been able to do this year that he did last year when they beat Marquette and USC. Need that now. Mississippi State, in recent years or recent games, they blew out Tennessee on Saturday. Tennessee might have peaked early. They kind of have a flat tire in some ways, loose wheels. They played South Carolina tough, good South Carolina team, overtime, played Kentucky tough, 91-89, played Auburn on Saturday in the SEC semifinals, lost by like 6 or 7. That's the best anyone played Auburn that weekend. They played well against some of these teams. However, you think there's a chance Michigan State not only wins, but gets the break going, shot fakes them, carves them up, and just has one of those games where they win by 14, and people are like, what the hell is this?
If they do get the break going, I can see Tyson Walker hitting jumpers, like three-pointers and whatnot, like he did a couple times against Purdue. I really felt like we talked about the 18-0 advantage Michigan State had against Purdue. I felt like there's a chance for 25-0. In that game. But Tyson Walker, I think you can go back to why you're saying like the team has got a little bit less pressure off it. The fact that Tyson Walker is moving better, is able to defend at a higher level, is able to get his lift in shot, has less visible effects from the groin injury. He's not wincing every time he comes down from a jumper. So I think that's a positive thing. I think Hogard's doing a nice job pushing the ball. I think the center position, they have contributed in their own different ways. I think Michigan State's found kind of a little bit of a rotation there, or found ways to get production out of there that wasn't there before. Malik Hall's been really consistent. He's got to do it again. And if Malik Hall has his Joey Hauser moment, where has one, like a game where he carries his team, or whether that's as a passer or rebounder or whatever, all the above. If Malik Hall plays like Joey Hauser did in some of the NCAA tournament games that he had last year, I think there's a good chance that Michigan State advances.
If rebounding is close to equal and Michigan State shoots 40% from 3 and doesn't have more than 13 turnovers, they should be in good shape. Josh Hubbard, the little shooter, He can get hot, but he can also go 8 for 25. Yeah. He's done that. That part of it reminds me of when they played LSU in the Sweet 16 it was in Washington D.C. before they beat Zion Williamson and Duke in the regionals down in Washington D.C. in 2019. LSU had that little guard, Tremont Walters, something like that. Little guy, 5'10", and he would just shoot with no conscience. And he was something like 8 out of 18 against Michigan State that day, but he was like 4 out of 8 from 3. So he had a couple threes like in the second half and brought him back a little bit, but. Same stature guy, although this guy Hubbard is more physical and he's younger. But Hubbard really elevates to get that shot off, and he moves so well without the ball. I mean, Walker's going to be into him. Walker said today, it's all about making sure it's tough shots. If he makes one, make the shots tougher. So Walker's got to stay on him and go through the screens, and the way that he can stop and sprint without the ball to get the ball, and as soon as he catches it, he goes straight up with no conscience, and it's too late. If on a handoff situation, you can't get around that guy. Some of those things are like you can't defend him. You can't get to it, and you kind of have to hope. Well, I hope he doesn't make that shot. That's a crazy shot for most human beings, but there's always a chance he's going to hit those. He was 5 out of 6 from three-point range against Kentucky when they lost 91-89. Went back and forth with Reed Shepherd. That could happen with Hubbard. Michigan State could play well, and he does that, and it's one of those days where it's not your night. That could happen also. But I think chances are, Michigan State, this is just going to be one of those games like against USC, against Georgia, in first rounds in the past, where Michigan State has had enough, not only good talent, in this case experience, but the program kind of wills them through a little bit, the way they do things. I think all those things can help Michigan State, and they'll need it because Mississippi State's dangerous.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Paul? All right. We'll be there covering it. We appreciate everybody. Check it out, SpartanMag.com. Give us a like. Subscribe to the channel. The video bomb, what do you think? What was that? What was she thinking? That was interesting. It's not her. In terms of over the years, in terms of having people come in and interrupt a broadcast, not the type of person I would expect to do that. But you never know what to expect.
If anyone out there is wondering why I was quiet and I didn't say stuff, is because I've been around long enough to know myself, and I've kind of got a little bit of a mouth on me.
Yeah, I'm glad you behaved. That's good.
Just kind of reminded me of my Aunt Kathy, whose famous line at every restaurant is, "Are there any men on the menu?" That's kind of
Was she the Tom Jones fan?
No, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to dish on my relatives.
All right. Anyway, give us a like. Check it out. Go to SpartanMag.com. Got coverage throughout the tournament. Spring practice. A lot of spring football coverage at SpartanMag.com. If you like Michigan State, go check it out. $1. Check it out for a month. You'll like it. For Paul Konyndyk, my name is Jim Comparoni from the Spectrum Center, Charlotte, North Carolina. First round of the NCAA tournament 2024 with the Spartans for SpartanMag.com.